In medical news, a new study suggests that attending top-notch high schools may benefit the health of disadvantaged teens. Rise News medical contributor Dr. Aletha Maybank joins us with that story and more. Hey, Aletha, it's good to see you. This almost seems to kind of make some sense.
Right. I mean, the findings aren't particularly new. What is new is really the methodology. And you've heard me say before that I always say education is one of the most protective factors for anybody's health. So it's not only graduating from high school, but it's the quality of education that you have. And that's known, and there's research out there. What's unique about this study is really the methodology. And so what's the gold standard for scientists are what we call a randomized controlled study. And this is really kind of the setup for it. This particular study mimicked that. And the reason why is because at LA County, when kids are chosen to go into the charter school system, it's a lottery system. It's at random. It's not based on academics. It's not based on anything related to their background. So they were able to look at 500 kids at the charter schools and 500 kids at the regular schools who had similar backgrounds. And so they are actually able to see that if there were differences in outcomes, that they were based on something related to the school and something related to high academic achieving schools.
Okay. Is there any nuance, though? Is there any caveat to this finding?
Right. The caveat is mainly it's a more valid finding, per se, because of the methodology of the study. And really what it showed is that those kids who were at the higher academic achieving schools were less likely to have high risky behaviors. So behaviors such as unprotected sex and gang violence and not using condoms. So that was a little bit unique to the study as well, and it specifically looked at health, which is also unique to the study.
Could this study in any way point to any specifics as why there? Yes.
Right, and that's an important thing. So what is happening at the school? Why is this happening? Is it something in the home? We know it's not particularly the home because half of the kids came from families where parents actually didn't even graduate from high school. But, could it be the expectations that happen when you're at a higher achieving school? Could it be just being around other children that are also high achieving that motivates you? Also, we know that, children who have higher cognitive skills are more likely to do and have better behaviors. Mm-hmm. So there are many things to still look at with this particular study, but it's just another confirmation. I don't know how many we need, but another confirmation that the better the schools are for the children, the better they
kids
do.
Yeah, better the kids do. Yeah, very important information. Okay, let's move on to another, and this is hysterectomy and the treatment of uterine cancer.
Well, in April of this past year, actually, to say this first, the Food and Drug Administration came out with a policy. So there's a procedure called morcellation, and it's a way to remove the uterus and to have a hysterectomy, and mainly for the treatment of fibroids. And in April, the FDA actually said, we're going to stop recommending this particular procedure because what they noticed in a particularly smaller study is that it has the chance of spreading undetected uterine cancer. And so what happened, though, was that a lot of the physicians really weren't believing it or buying into it because it was a smaller study. So this particular study, now done by Columbia University, now looks at 500 hospitals, over 36,000 women who actually had the procedure, and it shows very similar results. And that really 1 in 368 women are at risk for having uterine cancer spread through this particular procedure.
Is it because cells are freed in the process of the removal of the uterus? Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. So, and the way the procedure works is that morcellation, and typically a hysterectomy is invasive, can be painful, and the recovery can be slow because you're actually clearly making an incision in the lower abdomen for the woman, anywhere between 3 inches and 7 inches wide. Mm-hmm. With morcellation, you're making smaller incisions, and you're really inserting 2 particular tubes. One tube to actually slice up the uterus, and another tube to suck out the pieces. And so what can happen in the fibroid, if it's not tested beforehand or if a biopsy is not made, there could be uterine cancer within that fibroid that you couldn't tell. And so it's spread throughout the body when you do that slicing. Or another thing that happens that sometimes the pieces actually remain. Mm-hmm. And so there's that risk. And if you're older, above 65, that risk is even greater.
Oh, wow. Well, that's an important finding. Hopefully they'll stop using that procedure.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of really also of making sure that there was a splash about this and really pushing it out there for the physicians to see that there is strong evidence that we have to be very careful with this procedure.
Indeed. Let's get to our last topic before we're out of time, and that is this new drug called Truvada.
Truvada. So this was approved back in 2012, and it was approved because based on this other large study where it looked at and involved 1,600 gay and transgendered men and showed that if they took this medicine every day, it actually prevented their risk of getting HIV/AIDS. What they asked is that after the study was done, do you want to continue on in the study? Do you want to continue getting medicines? About 3/4 of them said yes. And what they noticed, and they followed now 17 months later, is that if they took at least 4 days of medicine, it still also helped prevent the transmission of HIV/AIDS. They didn't transmit it at all. And even if they took 2 to 3 days, they also decreased the risk of transmission. So it's really a positive sign for this particular drug. It's really recommended for those who have high risky behaviors, who are unlikely to use a condom, which we still say is the most protective and best way to prevent the spread of AIDS. But some people we know are definitely not going to do that. And the good thing about this particular study, it also shows, because the concern was, well, is this drug going to now allow people to just, have sex freely without using a condom more likely? And that's just not the case, and the studies show that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this drug in terms that we can understand how it acts, how it works?
Yeah, I mean, it basically acts at, stopping the CD4 count, or stopping the CD4 cells from dying and getting killed. The helper cells that are very important for the particular body to fight infection when infection is around.
So it helps a patient's own body then fight the virus?
Mm-hmm. Fight the virus, but it helps prevent replication of the disease as well.
This is absolutely amazing. And you said it was approved in 2012?
2012.
And how widely is it used?
It's very new, and that's the challenge. It's very expensive. It's about $800 per pill here in the United States. In other countries, such as Africa, the pill is only about 32 cents. But here in the United States, it's very expensive. So it's not very accessible to a lot of people yet at this time.
All right, Dr. Aletha Maybank, as always, fascinating, interesting. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, we'll see you next week. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching us. We'll see you tomorrow for another edition of Arise America. Bye-bye.